Welcome to Common Ground, your inside look at Suffolk County. I am your host, Fernandito Osa. Today my guest is Superintendent Yolanda Smith. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So nice to have you.
Thank you.
Let me begin by asking you, could you tell me a little bit about your story, how you got started in the department and how you've seen it change?
That's a good question. I began with the department in 1995 as a correction officer, and back then we had a serious overcrowdedness problem. We were just trying to manage people and get them beds. And so while there was some focus on education, nothing like what we do today. The culture has truly changed. It's more like an environment, more like a campus society type environment. And we do that so that when our folks go back home, they're able to, they can say or feel like they've already been in a community. Now that sounds weird, it being a house of correction, but we certainly try to have a wonderful library, good classrooms, good programs that are going to service their needs. And I would say one of the other changes is that our women receive all the services that our men receive today. 25 years ago, that didn't happen. The women were on floors upstairs. They really didn't come out. They didn't go to the yard. They didn't do things that their counterpart did. But today, anything that the men can do, I won't say women can do better. But,
I know it's coming.
But they are certainly doing it. They are certainly doing it. And I'm just so proud of the fact that we take a lot of, we put a lot of emphasis in the continuum of care when people leave our custody. So that's very important, and we have wonderful community partners who service our folks. Even before they leave, they get to know them before they leave. So we're still learning, we're still growing, and the innovation is right where it needs to be. So I'm very optimistic that maybe in a year or so, we're totally gonna be much like a campus.
Actually, that's how it feels, like a campus.
Yes.
When you're walking around, and it's huge, and I look around, it reminds me, almost walking in the old halls of UMass.
Yes, and that's what we want. We want the environment to be comfortable and soothing it somewhat so that folks can learn and address their needs properly.
Oh, great. Well, that takes us to my second question. Could you describe what it was like and what your job entails on a day-to-day basis? What that looks like for you on a daily basis, daily basis?
Luckily, it's different every single day. I am faced with a lot of different challenges. The first thing that I need to be sure of is that we have adequate staffing so that we can manage our facility. I also want to make sure that that medical services are intact, that our food services are intact, and then I just kind of take things as they come, but I spend a lot of time in the community as well, nurturing good partnerships. I also work with the sheriff to make sure that we are heard by legislators so that when funding comes about, that we're heard and we're receiving what we need. Because at the end of the day, our facility is a de facto detox center. It is a mental health center. It is a homeless shelter. It is just a place for folks who have fallen down and need help getting back up.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, so every day is different, which I appreciate, but sometimes they're long days.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. For our viewers out there who don't know, could you tell them and explain to them the difference between the House of Correction and the Suffolk County Jail? Okay.
So traditionally, the Nashua Street Jail was built to house people who have been arraigned, so pretrial folks. And the House of Correction is where folks who have been sentenced, their case has been adjudicated, they were sentenced, and so they come to the House of Correction. We usually hold people whose charges were, their sanctions were or was 2.5 years or less. And so that's traditionally been the distinction. Pretrial folks and sentenced folks at the House of Correction. But because we have really taken a holistic approach, and because sometimes Nashua Street becomes overcrowded, we house detainees at the House of Correction, and we send folks that are sentenced over to the jail so that they can help out with functions and operations in that manner. So we're really collaborative, but for the most part, again, I'll say it one more time, National Street Jail, pretrial detainees, and the House of Correction, sentenced people.
Okay. Can you tell me about your experience climbing through the ranks? This is a very good question here. Through the ranks to become the superintendent, and talk a little bit about what it's like to achieve this as a woman, as we still know that it's still a male-dominated profession.
It is.
So
it definitely is.
And I was actually surprised. It was really nice. I said, "Oh my goodness, look at how the ranks." You know, you went through the ranks. It was amazing to come and see that.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. I should walk you through my journey.
Please do. Please do.
I began in 1995. I'm telling my age on TV, but I began as a correction officer in 1995, and I was promoted to corporal, and then to lieutenant, and then to a captain shift commander. I was then promoted to assistant deputy superintendent, where I became the department's training director. And while the training director, I was promoted to assistant superintendent. And then I think 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I went back to the House of Correction, because my office was located at our training facility. Mm-hmm. And then I went back to the House of Correction. I went home, so to speak, mm-hmm. To the South Bay House of Correction as the assistant superintendent and ultimately the superintendent. So my journey has been long, it's been dynamic, and I thank God that I'm a good test taker. Yeah. But more specifically, I feel recognized because I have always been an advocate for our population of people who are mandated to our custody. More specifically, I was passionate about this job as a whole in corrections, and the reason I remained a practitioner is because I just wanted women to have the equality that they deserved. I think I mentioned earlier that the women, their access and their movement around the institution was limited, which meant their programs and services were limited. And so I saw an opportunity to become an advocate for them, and it fueled me, and I petitioned my supervisors about being innovative and doing things differently, and so here I am today, and it's a wonderful job. I actually love it because I get to help people. I get to spend more time with people in criminal justice than probably, and myself and my criminal justice correctional colleagues, we spend more time with the folks that go in and out of the system more than probably anyone else in the criminal justice system. So we get to know them. I get to see the painters, and I get to see the writers, and I get to see the people who, the singers and people who love music and just need a second chance and they need opportunity. So that's very nice. And I think it has really become cultural at the House of Correction and I'm sure Jean would say the same about the jail, but it has become cultural that we help these people and provide them with services when they leave us.
Well, thank you for taking us through that little memory lane, because in reality, all those steps that you've actually taken us through, it's really the insight of how we learn how this department is seen through your eyes. It's amazing to learn that all these steps that you've been through and all these promotions that you've been through, you've got a chance to be able to see every aspect of almost every inch and corner of the House of Correction or the institution as itself, to then be able to relate all those inner things that you mentioned, that you're able to advocate for so many. So I think that broader, of experiences really has put you where you are.
Yeah, and I should say too that as a woman, I have always lived by a philosophy that once I got into a position, I would learn it, but I'm also preparing for the next one. And so being able to say I wore the uniform that my officers wear, and then, crossing over and wearing a suit, I think I have the best of both worlds. So I'm able to see things from the perspective of security staff as well as management, which is a very nice mix to run a facility.
It is. Good. So the House of Correction holds a bulk of department programming. When we talk about program, with respect to vocational academic education and others. Could you talk a little bit about the programs that you have and why are they so important?
Yes. So If I talked about all the programs, we'd be here all day because we have
a
over.
little time.
No.
We have a little time.
We have over 80. I would say we have over 85 programs and services that we provide our folks with, and some of the main programs that I'm so proud of is our anger management, because that's why a lot of people are with us.
Yes.
They're angry.
Yes.
They're angry at a lot of people and a lot of things that have occurred in their life. So how do you manage that anger? We have treatment facility. We have treatment. We have treatment units. Excuse me.
Yep.
And so we address addiction. We have a very strong, and I really say a very strong education division. So we want people to get their high school equivalency certificate, because we know that when you leave us, in order to get a job, you need that. So that's one of our main focuses. We also have vocational programs where we teach people, how to run an urban garden, how to be an entrepreneur, how to work in construction. You know what? If you like to cook, let's capitalize on that. If you want to continue school, we're partners with College Bound. Let's get you in that direction. So Sheriff Tompkins has been very instrumental in meeting, and his philosophy has been meet people where they are and do something with that. And so that's been our philosophy. And we have a very, very strong mental health team. And I'm so proud of them because we manage our entire caseload and we get good reviews, and I think we're doing excellent work. We're very good partners with Department of Mental Health. So when folks go back into the community, they have a provider, they have a prescription if they need to be, if they need to be on medication, whatever their needs are, we want to try to start the ball rolling while they're with us, so that continuum of care is in place and they can be better than when they came in through that booking door.
That's right. And I've been able to see some of those programs, and as well as your, all the programs you laid out, and also the community work program as well, that, it really, gets folks prepared for the real world. They're ready to work, they come out and they do either start their own businesses or they do work for someone in the family, and they're very grateful to that.
Yeah, and I think I want to put a plug in for employers. If we have a cadre of men and women who just need a second chance. They've been doing a lot of work to be better and preparedness for employment, and I think folks will be pleasantly surprised.
Right. So the next question I'm going to ask you, and we actually touched a little bit about it, was about mental health and substance abuse. I know you have a great department on the substance abuse treatment unit, as well as there's been some great things that have been going on there with the opiates and with the Narcan. Tell us a little bit about the mental health and substance abuse.
Yeah, the number one reason for folks who are in our infirmary right now, or maybe the second reason, is because of folks who are detoxing. So what does that mean? That means that we're very space limited, but we could get a host of people coming in at any given time and need to detox. So while we do the best we can inside of our infirmary and house those people who are most ill in the infirmary, sometimes we're forced to detox in general population and have everybody just do their due diligence in checking on those folks, medical, our security staff, just to make sure the people who aren't as bad off or as the folks in the infirmary. So with that, we spend a lot of time triaging and providing detox services, and then once that is done, we start working on treatment. Now, if you ask me, do we have enough treatment? I'd say no. We need more. We need more because this crisis has us kind of spinning our wheels, and there is really no point in teaching someone how to comport themselves in the community if we can't address the criminogenic behavior and the addiction that they show. So we try to do all of that with keeping our eye on the ball that we need to also, work on employment. So our mental health program is very strong and our treatment is really good, but it should be better and it should be more, and I will readily admit that. And we think of different innovative ways all the time to address mental health illness, because if someone is in crisis, we certainly want to address that right away for everyone's safety. If someone is detoxing, we certainly need to do that to preserve life. Detoxing is a very hard thing to go through. So we spend a lot of time stabilizing people. and then we look forward to helping them by devising an individual service plan for each person to help them, again, be better than when they came in and put some tools on their belt, because they're not going to be with us that long. We are a house of correction.
Yeah, and I like also, to, if I might add, is how sometimes folks don't recognize that they have a substance abuse problem. They think it's just a daily routine. It's something they need to sort of, for comfort, sort of deal with on daily, daily lives. But in reality, they come to learn that it is addiction. Sometimes it is either by something that just can be a common use of prescription medication, or it's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But eventually they learn how to sort of understand that there's a process. There's AA, NA, Alcohol Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. There's a way to talk about your story, tell your story to someone out there. And as you're telling your story, you're helping someone else. So that program there is very effective. I've seen it a lot.
Absolutely.
It's changed some lives in there.
Again, we take a very holistic approach, and we appreciate and love our community partners and volunteers who come in, because until a person admits that he or she is powerless over the drugs that they take daily, it's hard to move on. That acknowledgement and that acceptance has to happen. And so we try to create many different programs, whereas someone who's coming in may find some comfort in talking at an AA meeting or at an NA meeting, or with a one-on-one with the mental health counselor. So there are options, and we try to make those programs very cultural, because we know we are addressing it in a mass-like situation. I don't want to throw out the percentage, but I would say over 70% of the people who come to us with drug-related issues.
Okay, so I know that, like Superintendent Sumter, you were once a supervisor of training, which we talked about. Could you tell me a little bit more about how that changed over the course of time with the department?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was the director of training, and now I oversee the training as the superintendent. So I've taken a bit of a step back, but I work intimately with the director of training to make sure that our programs and our training that we provide to our officers and to the staff are top notch. So what does that mean? I go to meetings monthly with the Mass Sheriff Association Education Committee. In fact, I'm the chairperson of the Education Committee for the Commonwealth for County Facilities, so that we standardize training and we talk to each other and we listen to each other to see what's best practice. And so we spend a lot of time on teaching our officers that corrections has changed. We are the de facto mental health facility. We are the detox. So we want our officers to be able to recognize warning signs, not diagnose, but recognize atypical behavior and report it. So we spend a lot of time with our officers going to in-service training annually, as well as some non-security staff. And we change the curricula often so that it's new, it's fresh. We're all of our officers are being trained on how to use Narcan. They have to know.
Yes.
All of our staff are trained to use Narcan. Our folks who are out in the community and posts that take them into the community, they carry Narcan on them. And so these are the types of trainings that we provide. We have a program whereas the folks who are mandated to our custody, our folks, the men and women, they take classes on how to use it. Mm-hmm. Because who better to have Narcan on them, because they travel together, addicts travel together. And so if someone has Narcan on them and can reverse that overdose, it's a win.
Yeah, and I believe, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have Mass Health, you can get Narcan at a drugstore, drugstore, right? You can get that over the counter.
Yeah,
with Mass Health.
I'm not absolutely sure. I think you're right. I know we talked about that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's in place exactly to be fair to your question, but I do know that if anybody ever needs it, they can go to their respective Department of Health, find out where the Department of Health is in your community, and you can access it from there. We also are going to be giving it to people as they leave us. It will be in their property once it's time for them to go, so it's right on hand.
That's great. Excellent. Unlike the jail, which only houses inmates, the House of Correction has both men and women. Could you tell me a little bit about the differences between those two populations and also some of the specific programs you have that addresses those differences?
Yeah, absolutely. So our women have always been seen as the caretakers in the community. You know, you're taking care of mom, taking care of the children, taking care of maybe extended family members. And so they have had more bites at the apple going before the court. So, but it seems now that our count for women is increasing. So women are becoming incarcerated. And so with that, we've increased our programs to make them more gender specific and to address some of the things that victimization, assault, trauma, all the things that women and men, but more specifically as I talk about women that they've experienced, so that we can move on and get them going in some of our wonderful programs. We work very closely with Project Place, and they've just been amazing partners, I believe now for 12 years. Men have always had programs, but they're now strengthened and cultivated, and people go to programs that address their needs. So we have very strong programs, and again, like I mentioned earlier, anything the men do, the women do now too. So I'm super excited about that. Women participate in culinary arts. They also are part of a Community Works program, and so we do a lot of gender-specific programs so that they have a platform to talk about some of the things that have been bothering them and have, again, led to their criminogenic behavior.
And with our few minutes as we wrap up, I'd like to ask you also, you were formerly a DARE officer, D-A-R-E, and back in the day as a choice officer as well. Could you talk a little bit about the community involvement?
Very quickly.
So important.
I miss it so much because I love the kids, and it's always amazing for them to, see me at the mall or grocery shopping, and say, "Hi, Mrs. Smith." So it's always nice to see that, and I miss them. And I just think that in the community we need to do a lot more prevention work, and DARE did that. And we do the Choice program, which is talking to kids about choices and consequences. And I love being in the community, and I hope to do more of that.
Thank you, Superintendent Yolanda Smith.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here.
That's Common Ground. We'll be back.